Steven, I could get used to some Friday Night Football. What say you?
I didn't really watch much of it.
Why is that?
I was at a golf thing, man. Odyssey was at TPC Harding yesterday, Harding Park, and it was a benefit for the San Francisco Autism Society, or the Autism Society of San Francisco. So
Okay.
I had the game on during the dinner, but I didn't catch really the second half. I saw it when it looked like Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley had already connected, and it only took 10 minutes of game time, it felt like. And
Yeah.
then Jaden Reed going nuclear, and that marks mistake number 2 of leaving a wide receiver on my bench. Xavier Worthy was number 1. Jaden Reed was number 2.
Steven, you are a stupid fool because I did play Xavier Worthy, although I am with you on Jaden Reed. I drafted him, left him on my bench.
Yeah, that sucks. I mean, what are you supposed to expect? I didn't expect Jaden Reed to go off in Brazil week 1.
I mean, I knew that he was he probably was gonna have a big season. Him, Romeo Dobbs, Christian Watson, Dontavian Wicks, I believe, is the other wide receiver in Green Bay.
Yeah,
They're all primed for a big season. Although we'll see what happens with Jordan Love. We'll get to it all. Just your pregame show, man. We're back on Saturdays. And we come to you at 8 a.m. this morning because they had to schedule Texas and Michigan so fucking early. But hey, that's how it is on the West Coast. So hopefully we get done before kickoff. But if not, no big deal. I got that recorded. And Steven's got to plan his wedding. So it's all good for everybody today, except for the audience that we're on so early. Because nobody's here in the chat, not even the Ernies.
There is not much of an audience right now. Hopefully, this is just gonna be a
podcast special,
a listener podcast.
Yeah.
When we do, because we are gonna have Matt Maiocco.
Yes, Matt Maiocco is also going to join us at 8:30.
Yes,
and we'll finally get the answer once and for all. Does he like hot cocoa?
Why do you keep on bringing that? You are the only one. Just because his name rhymes with hot cocoa, you're obsessed with this whole Maiocco and hot cocoa thing.
It was a great lyric to my song. So we'll find out the gripping truth if Matt Maiocco does indeed like hot cocoa. Well, no, Matt's very nice to spend his morning with us today. So he'll jump on around 8:30.
I forgot where I was going with my point
about Matt Maiocco and hot cocoa.
No, just Matt Maiocco with him coming on, and I had like a question about something. But
well, he is also. We'll talk hot sauce with him too because he told me he is a big Hot Ones fan. So we'll talk about that. But let's get to some football, Steven, because we had 2 games already start to this 2024 season. Thursday night and Friday night, playoff teams from a year ago, the Ravens and Chiefs and the Packers and Eagles. And I guess something that we got to watch out for this season is not so much the kickoffs. Like, I'll get used to that. I really doesn't bother me that much. But I know a lot of people are like, I don't see the point, and you're just going to get more touchbacks, which what happened last night at the end of that Packers-Eagles game. They actually, the kick returner did not go for a touchback when he could have, and you could start the ball at the 30, but whatever. I think the big thing that's going to happen this season is the illegal formations for the tackles when they're not lined up properly. That was called repeatedly for the Ravens, and a little bit yesterday, Lane Johnson was called for illegal formation in the Packers-Eagles game in Brazil. So yeah, I think tackles are going to have to get their shit together and line up correctly, because otherwise, then the flags will be thrown pretty frequently. It seems like.
I'm just double checking how many penalties Ronnie Stanley had. So he had 2.
I believe it was 4. Or well, they were called for that that penalty 4 times, I believe, by the Ravens were.
He had 2 in the first quarter, which tells you all you need to know. They were ready to call it, and watching John Harbaugh get pissed was a highlight of the night.
But yeah, they're calling that, and yeah, let's just get right into it, man. So the Thursday night game, the opener, Ravens Chiefs, was thrilling at the end. And yeah, the big takeaway for Raider fans. And by the way, Raider fans, we're not neglecting you. I know that some people are a little turned off lately because we've been talking a lot with the Niners and whatnot. We'll get to some Raiders today.
Who are these people?
Raider people.
Aram?
Yeah.
Ah.
But we will definitely talk some Raiders today. But but yeah, Raider fans, they're not going away. I think they look even better now. The Chiefs offensively, I think, are better than where they were a year ago and where they were 2 years ago, because their receiving core is that much better. It will get better when Hollywood Brown is healthy, and now with Xavier Worthy, it is that much more lethal when they have that type of speed on the field. Because
yeah,
that his first touch ever in the NFL goes for a touchdown. That reverse play and the touchdown he scored. Thank God I started him in fantasy, Steven. But yeah, my guy from Texas has blazing speed, and he's going to make that offense that much more lethal.
Yeah, just as long as he stays healthy throughout the season, I don't see why this Chiefs team can't be putting up, at least 21 points a game. Like, this should be a legit offense. And God, it's scary to think, because I don't think we've really seen it yet, but how Andy Reid is going to use him in the red zone, because that's what I always kind of look forward to if I'm watching a Chiefs offense. Is not so much, sure, watching the Patrick Mahomes wizardry through, through every inch of the field, it is something. But what they do in the red zone, really inside the 5, is what always interests me, because Andy Reid is always dialing something up that's different, that's unique. And I am scared to see what they do with Xavier Worthy in that spot, because they kind of did, I guess, with that jet sweep or whatever, the reverse rather. It was from the 20, from the 19, from the 20.
It was a let's see here when I get these scoring plays. It was a 21-yard touchdown run.
Yeah. So, like, when they're inside the 10, I wonder what they're going to do with Worthy. I mean, it may be up to some of their other guys. The depth there that they have, like, obviously that's questionable, but Rashee Rice was pretty outstanding as well. So they've only gotten better, man. And I think that their defense and Steve Spagnuolo can kind of relieve some of the sting that is left by the departure of L'Jarius Sneed. They're just so good. They're so good. And they clearly have the Ravens in their own head. Like, the Ravens are thinking about the fucking Chiefs.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think most of the good teams in the AFC are thinking about the Chiefs.
Crazy. They really if you don't play perfect, like, that other team is going to they're going to implode. You saw it early on. You saw Lamar Jackson yelling at his O-line. You saw Lamar Jackson and Nelson Aguilar getting into it a little bit. It's not to say that doesn't happen. It's not to say that this team is done for because of that, but that's what the Chiefs do. They get you frustrated with your own team.
Well, I mean, I get what Nelson Aguilar was upset about, because I think Lamar Jackson on that 4th and 3 play dumped it down to Zay Flowers way too early.
Right.
Like, there was no room there for him to make a play for first down.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Chiefs, I mean, with Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice is not going to be suspended, it sounds like. So I think they were planning on that, and they benefited from his case not being determined right now. So they get a plethora of wide receivers. They even added Juju Smith-Schuster. He, didn't get a catch in this game, but he almost got a touchdown in the end zone, and was broken up by a Ravens defender. But yeah, they got receivers galore right now. They can kind of beat you whatever way they want to when they have different types of wide receivers. And that's to say that Travis Kelce wasn't even involved in this game pretty much. He had 3 catches for 34 yards. And I don't think that's even that big of a deal, because the Ravens, I think they game planned for him. You remember a year ago in the AFC Championship game, Travis Kelce just diced up Kyle Hamilton on that opening drive. So I think they just didn't want to get beat by Kelce. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that if Kelce just kind of, if they could be lethal offensively without Kelce getting involved in the first couple games, then that will be good for, he's an aging player, and it'll be good for his body and whatnot to take so many hits right away. And I'm not even worried about that. I think Mahomes and the Chiefs, receivers, they'll be fine if Kelsey produces or not. But yeah, I think though it's pretty clear on the other end, tight end wise, that Isaiah Likely is overshadowing Mark Andrews because that touchdown play he had was incredible.
Yeah.
I think it was it was 50 yards, whatever it was.
Yeah.
49 yards, just 1 yard off.
Mm.
But yeah, Mark Andrews still kind of looks like he's injured from a year ago, and Isaiah Likely seems to be the big playmaker in that department. And it was really more Zay Flowers who's the most reliable wide receiver for the Ravens right now, in my opinion. Yeah, the Ravens offense was fine in the end. It was pretty much just Lamar Jackson running all over the place because their offensive line on the right side did not hold up very well. They got a rookie, I think, right tackle, or is Ronnie Staley? No, Ronnie Staley's a left tackle. So yeah, they got I believe the guy from Washington playing right tackle right now. And the right guard was struggling as well. Chris Jones got in there pretty easily every play and had that strip sack. So the weird thing about the Ravens is they signed Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry did run some pull read option with Ryan Tannehill, but they did not want to run that with him. Yes, on Thursday's game. So they ran the ball with Derrick Henry, and a lot of it was under center, which is not Lamar Jackson's game. Most of Lamar Jackson's runs were just scrambles where he was going back to pass and just took off. Yeah. And kind of like a year ago in the AFC Championship game, they kind of abandoned the run a little bit. They just wanted to throw more. So, yeah, I hear you on I think the Ravens definitely see the Chiefs as their bugaboo, and they get kind of a certain way mentally when they play them.
Yeah.
But I think the Chiefs are a better team right now.
They are. And I hated the post game stuff. Like, I know you're not supposed to read too much into it, and maybe they were being just like, and I do get annoyed when athletes are just super boring, but like, what are you talking about, Lamar? Likely's foot was not in.
Yeah.
It was not a touchdown. I still believe it was no, except that it wasn't, except that you lost because you missed that throw wide open to Zay Flowers. Now, I know that he probably talked about that and probably took accountability because to be fair, I didn't watch the entire press conference, and I'm doing that thing where I'm just reacting to one specific clip, but I hated that. And then also Isaiah Likely's too. Like, oh, they got the worst of us. And this Chiefs, this ain't going to be the same when we meet them again in the postseason, and like kind of just talking shit on the Chiefs. Really, like what are we doing here? Just move on.
Yeah, I thought that final drive. I mean, that was exciting. That was an exciting finish, but Lamar Jackson was way too late on the throw to Isaiah Likely in the left corner of the end zone. He could have hit him earlier, and that kind of led to Isaiah Likely landing hard outside of the end zone and hurting his shoulder. But they came right back in. Lamar missing Zay Flowers was really bad. Like, I think Lamar Jackson is a very, very good quarterback. I mean, he's definitely in the top 10 discussion. But I do have issues with his accuracy. And in that situation, some of the best quarterbacks miss wide receivers like that. But that was pretty bad. Pretty bad that he missed Isaiah Likely Zay Flowers that wide open in the end zone.
I mean, I know he's going to his right and he's throwing across his body, so it's a more difficult throw than we probably let on, but you got to hit that. If you're the MVP and you got a chance to at least make it a 1-point game, like, you got to hit that. You got to hit that throw. And I don't know. What did you think of the idea? Like, I know it's just a hypothetical, but what did you think of that idea of them wanting to go for 2 instead of kicking the field goal? Because John Harbaugh wanted to go for 2. And I think had Zay Flowers actually had Lamar Jackson put it in his chest and Zay Flowers caught that ball, I think they would have gone for 2.
Yeah, they would have. Well, the play that determined the game, I mean, that's brutal.
Yeah.
To score the touchdown, and it's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Isaiah Likely, there might be a blade of grass in between, like my dad's old slice of blue for the Michael Crabtree touchdown. But they're definitely his toe is grazing the white, and it looks like Isaiah Likely was out. It was very reminiscent.
Kevin Durant, 2021 playoffs.
Yes, exactly. It was very reminiscent of that. I don't hate the call to go for 2 in that situation. Because I guess the rule is what the mindset of most guys, like Mike Vrabel, I think said this, or whoever said this years ago. If you're going to score late to tie the game on the road, it's best to go for two just to end the game so you don't go to overtime in that environment. Which I get. Like you could also make the argument that maybe you gain momentum going into OT if you score right then and there. But Jim Harbaugh or John Harbaugh has been known to go for it a lot.
Yeah.
I remember that 2021 season you and I were talking about where you were like, "Oh, I love that he listens to his players for his fourth down decisions," and I was like, I think he listens to them too much because they don't work." But yeah, I would not have hated if he went for two right there because this team is the team that always fucks with you. So why not just end the game right there and try to win the game? Because you always catch a team off guard when you're like, oh damn, they scored with no time remaining.
Yeah.
So now they could go win the game. It was kind of reminiscent if they were going to do that of remember a couple years ago when the Chargers and Chiefs were playing on a Thursday night and Phillip Rivers hit Mike Williams with like no time remaining and they went for two and won that game. And they're like, how the hell did they win that game? They were barely in that game to begin with. That's how it kind of felt like. But
yeah,
I definitely would not have hated the decision to go for two.
I don't know if you want to go to overtime against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Not after the Super Bowl last year. And besides, it's week one. Like, just go for the win. It's fine. If you're expected to lose to the Chiefs, it's okay. Like, you can.
You're gonna play with house money at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. So
kind of. I mean, you want to win the game, but
I don't know. I think I would have been okay with it just because it's week one. But nevertheless, it didn't happen, and it just looks how we expected the AFC to look after week one. The Chiefs are dominant, and you might. I mean, although, God, what was that interception that Mahomes threw? That was bad. Whatever. He got hit. I know.
Yeah, he got hit. I mean, Mahomes didn't have his best game, but he still, the Ravens, while their defense has been, well known for the last few years, their pass rush is not great. Like they had to rely on Jadeveon Clowney and Kyle Van Noy to be their guys. They have young guys like I forget the guy's name who tore his Achilles when he was at the combine from Michigan. He's on the Ravens pass rush, but yeah, Mahomes was able to move around pretty easily. Lamar had to run for his life. So yeah, I came away. I mean, I think both teams will be fine. I just think I came away more impressed with the Chiefs. They look better than what they've shown the last 2 years when they won the Super Bowl.
Week one, it's a lovely thing.
Yep, and we got two games before the Sunday slate, and last night was the game of Brazil. Saw pictures 24 hours before this game was going to kick off, and I was like, Jesus, how are they going to do this? It looked like it was in bad condition, and then they got it ready. And maybe things have been overblown with the crime in Brazil. I think it's really Rio de Janeiro where there's a lot of the crime, and they were playing in Sao Paulo, right?
Sao Paulo, yeah.
Sao Paulo. So anyway, the game last night got really entertaining after some awkwardness to start. I don't think either team was anticipating the field conditions. I guess some people thought it was kind of like reminiscent of the Eagles and Chiefs in the Arizona Super Bowl a couple years ago. But once they found their footing, it was an exciting game. But it was sloppy to begin. The Packers were dropping passes. Eagles, God, I don't know what Jalen Hurts saw on that interception he threw in the end zone where he's launching it deep, and Xavier McKinney catches that pick. And then the fumble, that's going to be something we got to look at all season. Where is Jalen Hurts that comfortable with Cam Jurgens as his center? Because they fumbled the snap, I think, a couple times at the beginning of the game, and then at the end where they tried to ice it with the tush push.
Right.
But it became a very exciting game for the most part after everyone found their footing. How much of this game did you watch, Stephen?
I told you I watched some of the first half, but not a ton. I did catch the highlights, and I guess the one thing I'll say about this game is I would not mind this being a potential divisional round playoff matchup in the postseason. Like that was, at least from what I saw, like they're just going blow for blow. It's just like touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. It's gonna be a lot of fun to watch. Not sure what this means for the future of the regular season, whether the Eagles defense doesn't have it or the Packers defense is in trouble because the Eagles put up 34 in their first game with like a brand new offense, essentially. I don't know. I don't know what this portends for the future, but I do think that that's going to be one that should be an NFC playoff matchup because that was fun.
No, it was fun, and I think they're two of the best teams in the NFC right now. Well, we'll see with Jordan Love, unfortunately, at the end of that game, but we'll get to that.
Oh,
I thought that it was kind of the most balanced I've seen a Eagles offense in years past with Shane Steichen and I think it was Brian Johnson who was the OC a year ago. But if you read the reports and everything, it sounded like Nick Sirianni was kind of the leader of the offense. And I thought the offense kind of looked basic a year ago, where it was just, let's run. Let's run some more. Let's do the tush push. Okay, let's chunk it deep to A.J. Brown or throw it down to Devontae Smith. I thought it was way more balanced, and the reason for that is Kellen Moore kind of, telling Jalen Hurts he doesn't have to run every play. But really, it's to take the pressure off of his legs because of Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley had a 3-touchdown performance. He's the first Eagle since Terrell Owens to score 3 touchdowns in his debut. And he looked great. Receiving, running. He might have an impact on this Eagle team like Christian McCaffrey did coming over from the Panthers with the 49ers.
Dude, I don't know why we were so hyper-focused on his injury history. Like, Barkley is one of the best running backs in the game, and we just seem to have glossed over that the Eagles acquired that best running back in the game, and he lights it up with 3 touchdowns. Like, I think this dude, I think we didn't really mention him for Offensive Player of the Year, but he very well could be a candidate for that. I think that'd be a good bet to make. But yeah, he makes a huge difference. And I read something interesting this last week or a couple of weeks ago. It was right after we did our NFC East preview, actually. So it was a couple of weeks ago. But Hertz was on WIP in Philly, just talking about the autonomy that he has now with this new offense. And with Jason Kelsey, being the one who was calling out protections and doing all those the blitzes, whatever it was, doing a lot of the heavy lifting as far as pre-snap stuff, outside of calling motions and whatnot. But the fact that Jalen Hurts is given more freedom in this offense, and I think that is going to play a huge role this year. And I think this is really where we'll kind of get who he is as a quarterback, because from what it sounded like last year, it feels like this year we've kind of counted out Jalen Hurts, and we feel like, the 2022 season was kind of an anomaly, and last year was really who he is. He showed his true colors, so to speak. But I think we'll find that last year might have been the anomaly, and that this Hurts guy's a really good quarterback now that he has a new offensive coordinator and a run game to go along with it.
Yeah, man. I thought he started off a little kind of looking like last year, just throwing blindly, and then he found his groove. And yeah, that touchdown pass he threw, I mean, it was more impressive, I think, on A.J. Brown to get over on Jair Alexander for that long touchdown throw. But Jordan Love was impressive too last night. He struggled at times as well, but he threw a bad pick to Reed Blankenship later on in the game. But man, his wide receivers, they got speed. And yeah, we talked about it. I did not start Jaden Reed, but he went off last night. Long touchdown throw, long touchdown catch, long touchdown run. Yeah, I think the Packers are going to be a good team too. I wouldn't focus too much on the defenses. I think it's just week 1, and they're still figuring things out. Both defenses have new defensive coordinators. The Eagles with Vic Fangio, and the Packers with I think his name is Jeff Hantley or Howley, head coach of Boston College a year ago. But I was impressed with both teams. I would say kind of the same deal with Derrick Henry, with Josh Jacobs. Looked a little slow. Josh Jacobs ended up having a pretty good game stat-wise, but he doesn't have that burst of energy we saw with the Raiders.
I think he's done a lot of talking this offseason.
Yeah.
Done a lot of media. He's done a lot of, shall I say, revisionist history, I guess would be one, where he talks about this whole thing with the Giants, which turned out not to be true. This thing with the Raiders and how it was the Raiders' fault. He said the Giants made him a contract offer, and the Giants refuted that completely. Just doing all these things about with the Raiders and kind of blaming them for how everything worked out. And he wanted to be a Raider for life, but Josh McDaniels and that coaching staff didn't put him in a position to succeed. But
well, he won rushing the title, but okay.
Not with McDaniels?
Yeah.
Damn, really?
2022.
Well, God, McDaniels was with the team that year. Jesus. But I think
might have been the best year with Derek Carr. Hindsight.
I think that Josh Jacobs has already lost a step, and that's what kind of went unspoken. You got a lot of people saying that he's still a great back, which he can be, but look, man, he's not getting any younger, and running backs only have, X amount of time to actually maximize their prime window. And I think that's why he wanted to get paid so bad, is because he might have known, like, look, if this is my time to get paid, this is going to be it, because I don't know how much value I'm going to bring to myself if I'm going to continue to play.
No, I mean, yeah, I get that. And that's why guys always want to get the bag when they can. But yeah, he didn't look fantastic. So you're telling me that he lied about the Giants. That makes me wonder, did you see the thing where he said the Chiefs wanted to get him hard? And he was like, I can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that.
Well, hey, good on him for that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, dude, I thought that, yeah, I think it's going to be more of a running back by committee. The other guy that was running the ball for the Packers last night, I think his name is Aaron Wilson. He looked pretty good. They'll get Marshawn Lloyd at some point. But yeah, I think that the Packers looked like a pretty good team. I thought both teams looked good. I think just the Eagles were the better team last night.
Yeah.
But sucks. At the last, I think 6 seconds in that game, Jalen Hurts awkwardly turns around. Jalen Carter tackles him, and he gets his foot caught underneath him. It's not an ankle injury. That's what I thought initially. I thought it was going to be a high ankle sprain. Turns out it might be more of a knee injury, which sucks. And God, you got to fly back 10 hours from Brazil. That probably makes things worse. So we wait now. He'll get an MRI. From what Tom Pelissero says, looks like his ACL is intact, so that's good. But God, I mean, yeah, it doesn't look like he'll miss the entire year, but he may miss some time if it is a knee injury.
Ugh. Just after giving him a contract, too.
I know. They gave him a contract, and I mean, bigger things than me. I thought he was going to be MVP, and I drafted him in my fantasy league. But I want to see Jordan Love play. So if he misses some time, I don't think it'd be the end of the world. I still think it'd be a playoff team. It just matters how significant the injury is. If his knee is fine and it's like an MCL situation, he misses, I don't know, maybe 3-4 weeks, then I think they could be fine. Not with Malik Willis. They have to go out and get like Ryan Tannehill or somebody, but yeah.
Who do they have on the schedule coming up? They got the Colts, the Titans, the Vikings, and the Rams. So they could weather that storm for the first few weeks.
Definitely.
I mean, not to say it's their automatic wins, but it could happen at a worse time. Could tell you that. Could happen in a stretch when they're facing the Texans, Jags, Lions, Bears, 49ers, Dolphins, then the Lions again. Like that's brutal from October through November. Just a rough stretch of games for them. So they might even be precautionary with it.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, that's the latest on the first 2 games of the season. Both exciting, both fun, and we'll see what the full slate of games brings us. And real quick, just some other news around the league before we start playing games. Jamar Chase, it sounds like he's going to play, but he's going to limit himself. And that does not bode well for the Bengals because T. Higgins is doubtful for tomorrow's game against the Patriots. So we'll see how much Jamar Chase wants to take himself away from the game. And a contract looms with him. I guess that's really close, but he is going to play, but he's not going to give his full effort if he doesn't get that contract. I'm hearing differing things. I mean, I shouldn't say I'm hearing. I just read differing things on Hassan Reddick. Michael Lombardi believes that he's going to show up today, but it doesn't sound like they expect him to play on Monday. So we'll see about Hassan Reddick. Dak Prescott could get a contract before the Browns and Cowboys play tomorrow. And it sounds like we're not going to see Russell Wilson tomorrow. It sounds like it's going to be Justin Fields who gets the week 1 start.
Jeez.
Yeah. Let me text Maddie to come on real quick. But yeah, anything interesting catching your eye before we get into week 1, Steven?
Not necessarily. I mean, these were 2 fascinating games, but through this week, I'm kind of done with like all the offseason hype. I guess what I'm looking forward to is can a lot of these top quarterbacks hit the ground running like Patrick Mahomes did? Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and, for that matter, Jordan Love and Jalen Hurts all looked pretty good. They all looked like they were kind of just back. And I just wonder if the top quarterbacks around the league will do the same. I wonder who's going to be the one that falls flat, who falters. I guess that's what I'm looking out for. But I guess also another thing that's really intriguing me, maybe it's just because of Hard Knocks, but I am getting more and more interested with the Bears by the day. Like just that whole situation, just understanding that Caleb Williams has a chance to be like one of the greatest Bears quarterbacks of all time because their list of quarterbacks isn't exactly what you'd call fruitful, stacked. I'm really interested to see that. I don't know. Caleb Williams, that's one that catches my eye tomorrow. Bears Titans doesn't seem like that much of an interesting matchup, but it's a team that the Bears should beat, right?
We'll see about that when we pick our week 1 game, Steven. But before we get to that, let's bring on a guest that you and I both know. He's been on both radio stations, 95.7 and KMBR. He's covered the 49ers for the last 30 years, and he has a pretty sweet theme song. If I don't mind myself, let's go out to Matt Maiocco. Niners off season drove us loco. Let's go out to Matt Maiocco. Matty's done talking Ayuk. Let's go out to Matt Maiocco. We'll find out if he likes Hakoko, and I'm sure he regrets doing this interview. But let's go out to Matt. What's going on, Matt?
I didn't know you could do it on command like that. I thought that was like a one-shot deal. I mean, you just, you're like, the one-hit wonder that everybody comes to watch the one song and then it's like they save it until the encore. But I mean, you just opened with it, and I'm assuming you'll probably play me out with that as well. So anyway, thanks for having me. And it's
of course,
it's a glorious Saturday. Heading down to Santa Clara here shortly, which I always enjoy. Well, I don't like it doing it on a weekend, but the fact that there will be no traffic, I like that part of it.
Fantastic. Well, we won't keep you too long, Matt. So thank you so much for joining us. And
I'm so sorry for him, Matt. I'm so sorry that you have to wake up at 8:30 in the morning and you have to hear that rendition.
That's that's like the equivalent of my coffee, like a double shot or something, espresso.
Well, speaking of that, Matt, let's finally get this out of the way. Do you like hot cocoa?
You know what? I don't recall the last time I had hot cocoa.
Man, I've been spreading lies all these years.
I'll throw in the occasional mocha. But yeah, it's been a while for hot cocoa.
Okay, all right.
I'm a hot coffee guy.
Well, let's be honest. What's more annoying, me singing that song, or every time you go on with my dad, he has to bring up that Peter Schrager mispronounced your name?
Well, I would say probably your dad. Yeah, I mean, for the first time he did it, I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah,
and so I didn't know where it was coming from, and then just every time since, so it's been like a month now.
Yeah.
So I think he even acknowledged yesterday on the radio that, when I said that on live TV last night, I saw
that.
Really didn't like it.
Yeah, you guys at Dave Feldman were doing the NBC post game, and he decided to call you Matt Maiocco.
And you got to realize nobody watches the NFL Network, so nobody knew what he was talking about. So either they thought he was just making fun of my ancestry, or he actually doesn't know my name.
Yeah.
So either way, it's not. It was.
Yeah, I'd say it's a more of a poor reflection on him.
Yeah, I would say so. Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining us. We'll ask you a few questions about this upcoming 49ers season, which you've been covering this team for 30 years now. And let's start off with what happened exactly a week ago, unfortunately, with the Ricky Pearsall shooting. Have you ever experienced anything like that in covering time with the 49ers?
Well, yeah. I mean, there were issues, there were situations with Alden Smith, where there was a stabbing. And I remember, boy, this must have been in the days before HIPAA. I don't think it was, actually. I remember calling the emergency room at one of those San Jose area hospitals, and someone who apparently wasn't up to date on what he or she should be telling the media actually told me everything, and told me oh yeah, he sustained this and that. And so that was kind of, and at that point, I don't think I even really knew, the HIPAA laws and what, could be disclosed. So, remember now, there was a time, remember there was a shooting at Alden Smith's house. I think that might've been the same night, the same incident. And so there's been there's been a lot of police blotter stuff through the years. I remember there was a situation in, what would it have been, 2017, 2018 with, Reuben Foster. I think, he was with Ray Armstrong, and there was a situation there where, there was a potential robbery. So it's not, you read about it, not often, of course, but, there are times, there where other teams are impacted by it as well. So, I mean, not to say, oh yeah, just another day in the life. No, not at all.
Right.
I mean, it was wild from the sense of how the word got out there, and then, the conversations I was having behind the scenes with people as far as Ricky's condition. And then I hustled over to San Francisco General Hospital and, saw the mayor, the police chief, and the DA there. So it was, it was a crazy, crazy day. No doubt about it.
I was actually, because I work for KCBS now, Matt, and I was outside of the General Hospital as well. And to be honest, I didn't know if it was an appropriate time to say, "Hey, Matt, you might be joining my podcast soon on a weekend." So I didn't want to do that in that situation. But I was wondering, you were talking about the condition and all that, and I'm wondering, with people, obviously the fans were just waiting for answers after they saw the news break of what happened. And I'm sure you were searching for those answers to give to the people. So how long was that window where you thought the worst? Like, oh my goodness, this could be potentially fatal. Like, how long was that for you? Was that like just a quick half hour until you knew like he was okay and in stable condition? Like, how long did that last for you?
Yeah, that's about right. It was probably about a half hour.
Okay.
But at the same time, you hear stuff from people that you trust and who have inside information.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you hear that the bullet wound was to his chest, you doubt it too.
Yeah.
Go, oh, hold it. You just told me he's going to be fine and he's conscious and he's talking to police, but you just told me that he got shot in the chest. And so for that reason, I don't know if it was more, skepticism, I guess, that's why I didn't want to put out there, until I went through like official channels that he was okay, because I didn't want to put that on my plate to report something that I didn't have firsthand knowledge of. But it just sounded, I mean, it was, and I think even a week after, I think I was 100% correct in questioning or being skeptical that he possibly could be okay with the information of a bullet wound through the chest, and it went out the backside. I mean, the and I don't know if these are real stats, but Kyle Shanahan this week talked about, like out of 100 shootings of that nature, maybe 2, the victim comes out okay.
Yeah.
And certainly, Ricky Pearsall, with the physical toll of this, the emotional impact of it, and the 49ers did place him on the non-football injury list, which means he'll be ineligible for the first 4 games of the season.
Yeah.
With all that said, I mean, he came out of it as well as he possibly could have. And being out there on the practice field on Thursday, seeing him, watching the first part of practice, and then just kind of, you could tell he couldn't really contain himself. So he grabs a football and he goes out to the sideline. He's tossing the football in the air, catching it, and throwing it underhand, to Ronnie Bell, who throws it back to him and he catches it. I mean, it's, if you were just watching him, you wouldn't have been able to tell that anything was wrong. And this is 4 days after the incident. He was discharged from the hospital 21 hours after the shooting. It's a remarkable, crazy turn of events from being, of course, like the worst news you could ever hear. A player got shot, to, not too long after that, like Deebo Samuel, I think, was the first one who publicly kind of put his name behind, he's fine, he'll be okay.
Yeah.
Just the crazy turn of events from getting shot in the chest to, oh no, everything's cool, he's fine. So it's like almost like he had like the worst luck possible followed by the best luck possible.
Yeah. So in that 30-minute span where you didn't know what the outcome was going to be with Ricky Pearsall, did it kind of, and then they're totally different circumstances and situations, but did it kind of remind you a little bit of in 2005 covering the team with Thomas Harrion, who tragically passed away before the season started?
I think, it might be overstating 30 minutes. It might have been less than that. From when I got the first indication, I was very fortunate to get somebody on the line almost immediately. The Thomas, wow, that's bringing back some memories. The Thomas Harrion situation, no, basically in that, and for those of the listeners here, viewers that don't know, Thomas Harrion was an undrafted rookie offensive lineman from Utah, who in the high altitude of Denver, after a preseason game, went into cardiac arrest. And it was while the team was gathered after the game, and immediate assistance was provided to him, including Dr. John York, the team's owner. And so that was a situation where basically the first indication that something was wrong, it was obvious that something was very wrong.
Yeah.
I remember being outside the locker room and just hearing that there was something that was going on in the locker room. There's a medical emergency at that point. Didn't know who it was, and then being, literally right outside the locker room door at Mile High Stadium, or what is it called? Invesco Field.
Yeah, Invesco Field.
As the ambulance was backing up to the door of the locker room, and then seeing a gurney come out with a first responder on top of it, applying CPR and chest compressions. That's the chest compressions. And so immediately it was like, the serious nature of it was immediately known. And then at some point, I forget exactly how long, but I don't think it was that long, maybe an hour or so, 90 minutes later, we received word that Thomas Harrion had passed away. And the team, as they do after games anywhere, they basically, after a game, a lot of times they'll go through airport security at the stadium, get on the team buses, go straight onto the tarmac, onto their charter flight, and then they go home. in that, and I'm not sure how many buses were on that trip for a preseason game, but the buses went into an airplane hangar there at Denver International Airport, and that's when head coach at the time, Mike Nolan, told the team. So that was the worst thing I've ever covered, I think. Yeah. I mean, how could there, and if it wasn't, it was tied for first, because you can't get any worse than that. So it's funny though, Derek, you asked that question, and that hadn't dawned on me. It didn't, I think I was so singularly focused on Ricky Pearsall and just making sure that I wasn't putting out any bad information. Boy, that's interesting you bring that up, because man, that does bring back some memories.
And going back to Pearsall, so him being on the non-football injury list, first 4 weeks he's out. But do you foresee this kind of playing out the same way it did with Brian Robinson a couple of years ago, where it was obviously a different play or a different area where he got shot. It was in the knee and glute area, I believe, with Robinson. But he was able to return week 5. And with all that you mentioned with Pearsall at camp, do you think a week 5 return is in the cards, or maybe they're going to slow play it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any big rush.
Yeah.
I mean, that's obvious, right?
Right.
but I also kind of mean it from, not to be callous, but I do mean that kind of in a football sense too. They're obviously, physically, emotionally, you don't want to rush it, but also the team's in a pretty good position right now when you consider that, Brandon Ayuk is back. Is he going to be sharp week 1, week 2, week 3? Yeah, probably not. Deebo Samuel had a good camp. Juwan Jennings working back into it after the oblique, and now there's an ankle. But, a guy like Chris Conley, who is a veteran guy and just a pro, so he would be the 4. Jacob Cowing, a rookie, the 5, who will also be active on game days because of his return duties. Ricky Pearsall will bring something to the table, but I just don't feel that they have to, from a personal standpoint, doing what's best for the individual, and also kind of what's best for the team. They don't have to rush it. So, I mean, it looks like it looks like week 5 is not out of the question, which is crazy to say.
Yeah.
Now, so with the open wounds, and there's 2 open wounds, right? Or 2 wounds. One, so it's on the right side. It's one like here that kind of goes through, the armpit and out. The idea was, and we've seen this with like guys who have finger surgery or whatever, they don't want them to play right away or work up a sweat because of the risk of infection. So that's where the 49ers are now with Ricky Pearsall. Like he's chilling out. He probably wants to do something, do some cardio, get on the treadmill, whatever, but they don't want him to do that for at least a week, maybe 10 days. And then he can start ramping up. And so once he starts, doing more stuff physically, they'll have a better idea. One side note, when I was watching him on the sideline before practice, he was with Dustin Perry, who's the 49ers head strength and conditioning coach. And I did see them like kind of doing range of motion stuff where Ricky, raised his elbow up to shoulder height to, I'm standing 50 feet away, so I'm not hearing, but pretty clear that, Dustin Perry was kind of checking out. How's it feel? What's your range of motion? So I never saw him, like, he probably didn't want to raise it too high just for fear of, reopening a wound. But, I mean, you could see that he was already, moving that arm and trying to regain some of that. So, I mean, I don't know how it's going to play out, and the 49ers are in no big rush to say we need him week 5, October 6th against the Arizona Cardinals. There's been none of that. It is something they'll really kind of just see what kind of space he is in, emotionally, mentally, and physically before they have to make any kind of decision like that.
Yeah, I mean, even just judging off Shanahan's comments that he basically asked, like, if he could go against the Jets, I have a feeling he's not going to. I have a feeling he's not going to make it too easy on the coaching staff. If they
and you can even see. I mean, I'm sure you saw the videos of him out there. I mean, it looked like he's just like get me out there. I'm ready, coach. I'm putting me in. Yeah.
Crazy.
So it's been a wild, couple weeks.
Yeah.
Or a couple weeks. Seems like a couple days. It's been a wild week with just how fast everything had happened. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, from the news of Ricky Pearsall shot to, the stuff that I was hearing behind the scenes, to the video coming out that showed him walking, to Debo, he's okay. Well, one other part of this thing was the team party. Like once I heard about the team party, I was like, well, he must be fine, because if this were a life-threatening situation, do you really think the team would be gathering and having a party?
Yeah.
Then you find out later too about how Ricky, was, I guess, joking. Hey, I don't know if he FaceTimed Kyle Shanahan from his hospital bed and said, hey, I'm still trying to make it to the party, but if I can't, make sure, if I can't make it, I do want to talk to the guys. And so from talking to a couple of the players, it was a really cool thing, because everybody showed up. We're like, what's going on? And Kyle Shanahan at his house basically greeted everybody and gave them the update. He's going to be fine. We're going to try to hook up with him later. And when they did, one of the players, Ronnie Bell, told me, it was like so cool. You could see how Ricky's spirits raised, were heightened because of that. And then everybody else who was at that party were like seeing him, hearing him. They knew he was out of the woods at that point. That kind of like I was thinking, like, okay, I've just been told he's fine. He's going to be okay. But didn't you just tell me he got shot in the chest? So it's probably the same thing, right? Like all his players are going, okay, he's fine now.
Right.
But he got shot in the freaking chest. How good can he be? And then when they see it, it's like, oh my God, that's same old Ricky. Yeah, he is fine. And then, then they can go and, be thankful and have a good time. And it sounds like it was a very positive experience all the way around.
Yeah, and the quote that stood out to me was John Lynch talking about Ricky Pearsall telling John, I want you to know that I'm not injury prone. And John Lynch was like, well, it's not really an injury, Ricky. This is something else. But it's been an eventful offseason for the 49ers. I'm sure probably one that's probably been one of the most chaotic ones you've covered, Matt. But more trivial things, the contract stuff with Brandon Ayuk and Trent Williams. You were all over it. You had the reports that Brandon Ayuk and then 49ers, well, basically the 49ers set up trades proposals to the Patriots and the Browns, and Brandon Ayuk wasn't interested in either. Mm-hmm. We hear the report that the Niners gave an offer to Brandon Ayuk on August 10th or August 12th, and that was the same offer that he agreed to. Yeah. So just curious, what were the timeline of events from when I know you were covering the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and I believe that weekend was the same weekend that you had the report that the Browns and Patriots made offers. Yeah. What was the timeline of events from when the Niners made their last contract offer to when they did the trade proposals to the two other teams?
Oh, I mean, not only trade proposals, they agreed to trades with those teams. And it was just contingent. And Kyle Shanahan kind of alluded to this yesterday, I think it was, or 2 days ago, when he talked about the Ayuk situation was so different because it could have gone a number of different ways. Think back to the other 49ers contract stuff that they've had. There's been at least one every year. This year there was two notable ones. The Christian McCaffrey deal kind of got it really wasn't an issue until it was settled. But with going back to George Kittle, Fred Warner, Debo Samuel, Nick Bosa, 4 and 4 years, there was never ever any suggestion. I guess with Debo a little bit, just because he requested a trade, and that was kind of weird. But I don't think there was ever anything too serious. Maybe actually the Jets did make a trade proposal, but it wasn't at the level that would have tempted the 49ers to deal him. But I think with all the others, there was really no question that the player was going to remain with the 49ers. This one was different. And, I think even behind the scenes, it was pretty like, we don't know where this thing is going, because for the longest time, no one really knew what Brandon Ayuk was looking for. So I know there was a contract proposal early in the offseason. 49ers wanted to get something done early. Brandon said that he thought something was going to get done early in the offseason, to the point where he told his agent, I'm going to go find my suit, and, I'm going to be on the next plane up to San Francisco. Well, then what happened? Like, if they were that close, what the heck happened that caused this to go on for many more months? Well, I mean, if you look at it anecdotally, Amon-Ra St. Brown signed his deal that pushed him up, $30 million a year for the extension, and now probably the goalposts moved, and so this thing went on and on and on. The 49ers gave permission to 4 teams to negotiate with Brandon Ayuk. Those teams were the 2 you mentioned, Browns and the Patriots, also the Steelers and Washington. Washington had no desire, and they were never a player in this. Pittsburgh did have a desire to add Ayuk, but the 49ers asking price initially was too high, and the 49ers and Steelers couldn't work something out, because for the this one would have been the more complicated deal, because the 49ers weren't going to just trade him for draft picks. They needed a wide receiver as well, part of that. Now, so I knew all that. Like, I knew the 49ers were looking, if they were able to work out a deal with the Steelers, that was going to be contingent on them being able to flip one of those picks for another wide receiver on another team. I didn't know who that was or where they were looking. I was assuming they were looking in multiple spots. I think after Ayuk signed the deal, Diana Rossini reported that the 49ers were looking at, I think, among other receivers, Cortland Sutton for a 3rd-round pick. And that, to me, made complete sense, because that was consistent with what I'd been hearing all along. But, with the Patriots and the Browns, Brandon Ayuk basically wanted to go, or the teams that he had expressed interest in were Washington and Pittsburgh. Well, the easiest routes to trades were the Browns and the Patriots, where he had no desire to play. So once that, I guess the longer it went on and the weirder it got. And initially when I'd heard about, the 49ers, I had really good information on that the 49ers had deals done. You almost thought, and me not knowing all the background, right? Because this stuff, it wasn't like they had just come up with these contract proposals and frameworks of deals. This has been going on for a long time, but initially I thought, something could happen really soon. And then when you hear, other reports, 49ers and Steelers talking, something could happen really soon. There was all this chatter, and that, the famous handshake on the field, and a nationally known radio guy is saying it's a done deal. It's going to happen today. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, a guy with like 2 million, social media followers and is a big name is just, you can't be just throwing that stuff out there. He must know something. And then you find out, no, it's just like everybody else. They saw that video and just assumed this is going to happen. And so, like, every time, and even like, Jerry Rice is like, something's going to happen today. This was the whole Steelers stuff. So all these kind of like, I don't know, like a mirage on the desert, like, we're starving, we were thirsty, we need something. And then there's this mirage of, this is now on the table. There was a report that the deal's done with the 49ers. They just need ownership to sign off on it. Well, yeah, the deal was done, except for it wasn't ownership who had to sign off on it. Brandon Ayuk had to sign off on it. And that was the thing that was kind of interesting. And, there's parts of it that was kind of fun to cover, especially when you hear, this news of kind of what's going on. And then Brandon was kind of funny the other day when he talked about that. He kind of, shrugged and admitted, like, yeah, probably made it a little bit more difficult than I had to, but another part of this kind of crazy offseason.
And I'm sure, like you were thinking as he was saying that, or as he was answering that question and saying that, you're probably like, yeah, you might.
Well, it's funny because you hear stuff and it kind of matches, like in retrospect, it kind of matches up with what you'd been hearing and to a degree reporting. I think I reported, back in, not sure when it was. Yeah, but it was right around that time where, around the Hall of Fame, I reported that it, kind of the ball was in Ayuk's court, to make a decision. And ultimately, I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but Schefter reported the day the deal was done, he reported that the offer that Ayuk signed was the proposal the 49ers had on the table since August 10th. The agent comes back and says that is not accurate information, but the check will still cash.
Yeah.
Well, the part that wasn't accurate that Adam immediately corrected was it wasn't August 10th, it was August 12th.
Okay.
But everything else in there was accurate. So, you had this kind of game going on behind the scenes too of, semantics and back and forth and all that. So it was an interesting situation that I think everybody involved with is just kind of glad it's over and then you move on. I've never been more happy for the regular season to start in any of the 30 years I've covered this team.
And I'm sure what added to the situation too for Matt was every KMBR appearance that Matt appeared on, it was, okay, so tell us about Ayuk. And you were like, yeah.
Yeah. I remember like several times, like, Tolbert would be like, hey, so what's the latest on Ayuk? And I'd say, okay, I'll give you the latest. And I'd follow with like 5 seconds of dead air.
Yeah.
And exactly. Tom and Adam were like, they'd wait and like, something wrong with the phone line. And then I'd say like, okay, that's it. I just gave it to you. And then they'd get the joke. Like nothing changed through a good portion of that.
It was annoying. It was definitely annoying.
And Matt, I know coming up on Monday, I mean, obviously now the 49ers got a full squad. Run it back with a majority of that team from Super Bowl 58. But it would also be a celebration for Frank Gore getting inducted into the 49ers Hall of Fame. I mean, I guess kind of a simple question out of this, but do you have a favorite Frank Gore story that you feel like maybe you tell too much?
No, you know what? I never really tire of talking about Frank Gore. I covered him, every game, every practice, every day of his 49ers career. I'd say that there are two things that come to mind about Frank was that, well, I'll try to make this really short. There are three things that come to mind about Frank. One was how much he enjoyed pass protection. And I remember there was a joint practice against the Raiders in Napa, and Tom Rathman was the running backs coach. And he basically said, it was a one-on-one blitz pickup drill, 49ers running back against a Raiders linebacker. And so they would square off, boom, next two guys in. And Rathman was like, okay, Frank, sit this one out. I mean, he's a star running back. Frank, you don't have to do this drill. And next thing you know, after seeing his teammates do it a couple times, Frank's like, are you freaking kidding me? I got to get in there. And he jumped into this drill. And I've never seen, and he was matched up against, kind of a young linebacker whose spot on the 53-man roster of the Raiders certainly wasn't guaranteed. And Frank absolutely destroyed the guy, like depleted him and took him to the ground and kept him on the ground to the point where teammates had to pull Frank off of him. And Rathman's like, Frank, like, what the heck are you doing? And Frank was just so excited. Blitz pickup for a running back who finishes as the number 3 overall rusher in the NFL. Another thing, during the Camp Alex of 2011, where the lockout was going on, I went down to San Jose and I'm talking to Alex and I say, and basically all the 49ers offense was there. Remember, Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman gave Alex Smith all the playbook material. They're installing a brand new offense. Coaches couldn't have any contact with the team other than one day where the lockout lifted. Alex Smith went in. At that point, he had yet to sign with the 49ers, but he knew he was going to. He comes back with a box full of material, playbook stuff, PowerPoint, all this. And so he's actually running the offensive meetings by himself in San Jose. The one guy who wasn't there was Frank. Frank was working out in Miami. And so one of these days I said to Alex, and we're just talking. I wasn't like, taking notes. I go, hey, is there any concern that like the guy who's basically the focal point of the offense isn't here to learn this stuff? And Alex goes, are you talking about Frank? And I go, yeah, of course I'm talking about Frank. And he goes, oh my God. He goes, Frank is the last person anybody has to worry about. Frank has this crazy football mind where if he sees it once, it's locked in forever, and he never makes a mental mistake. So he's like, I'm way more worried about the guys who are here than the guy who isn't here. So that really struck me.
Yeah.
The other thing is just kind of something that happened all the time. In the 49ers open locker room, Frank would be at his locker. And for the guys that he, the reporters that he liked and respected, he would always kind of like pull us, like, hey, come over here. And he'd say, hey, how do you think I compare with LaDainian Tomlinson? Hey, what kind of year do you think I'm having? Do you think I can? And he was like, it was the craziest stuff. Not crazy, but it was just so, I don't know, man. It was just neat to hear him and hear him talk about, hey, do you see, I forget I remember specifically him asking every week about LaDainian Tomlinson. Hey, do you see any of the Chargers game? How did Tomlinson play? And it was just kind of neat because you could get the sense of just how competitive he was, and how open he was to hearing what other people's opinions. And so that happened. I couldn't tell you how many times, dozens of times, I had those conversations with him, to the point where before I'd go into the locker room, I'd have to like do some studying or make some phone calls like, hey, how did LaDainian Tomlinson play? So I Frank, so I'm not just sitting there going, well, I don't know, I was watching your game. So that was a really fond memory of covering Frank Gore.
So fellow 49er writers Tim Kawakami and Mike Silver have categorized this season as kind of like a last dance for the 49ers. Would you agree with that? And if that's the case, who would that apply to?
I don't buy it. No, I don't buy it. And I mean, you know me.
Yeah.
I think the world of both Kawakami and Silver.
Yeah.
I can see where they're coming from this standpoint, that perhaps the veteran guys, let's throw Trent Williams, George Kittle. Would Warner be in that mix? Javon Hargrave. There are guys who are veteran guys who are just about maybe at the apex of their careers, where, you can't take for granted that a guy is going to be as good in season 7 as he is in season 8. So from that standpoint, anytime you have a veteran, or I guess with the case of Trent Williams, like season, whatever it is, 14.
Yeah.
So I guess from that standpoint, you can't take for granted that Kittle and Warner are going to be as good next year as they have the potential of being this year. So from that standpoint, I can see it. Like, they have this team together. We know what the team looks like. We know the players. Last time we saw them, they were all very good players. But I don't buy the notion that they're going to tear it down after this season. I just don't buy it. And I think will there be some guys, recognizable names, who won't be on the team next year? Of course. There were this year. Eric Armstead, longtime 49er. He's no longer around. Will there be another guy next year whose name, and they asked Kyle Juszczyk to take a significant pay cut or else. Next year, is Kyle Juszczyk going to be on the team? I mean, that's a fair question to ask.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to lose some guys in free agency, but I think from a cap standpoint, they've done a good enough job of kind of spreading out when these big contracts come due, also in relation to the rising salary cap, I don't think they're going to have to make any, like big drastic moves of we have to trade Deebo Samuel. They just restructured Deebo Samuel's contract to push more of his, money to the future. So if you're thinking like, oh, they're going to sign Brock Purdy to $50 million a year in the offseason, if that's what you're thinking, well, you know what? The big money on the salary cap isn't going to hit next year. So they can keep the team together. The big money on Brandon Ayuk's contract doesn't hit next year. It doesn't even hit the year after that. It's the year after that. And so I don't buy it. So I don't buy that this is the last dance, that it's going to be a teardown. And the other part of this is if they do, oh, by the way, I have a YouTube channel now, Matt Maiocco NFL YouTube. And so I've said this stuff on the YouTube channel, and I totally believe it, is if you, at the end of this season, if the 49ers feel compelled to pay Brock Purdy what his market value is, and his market value ends up being $50 million, that means you're in really good shape, because that means you have your franchise quarterback. Mm-hmm. And what's the common denominator of teams with championship windows open? They all have a franchise quarterback.
Yep.
And so it's kind of this double-edged sword of, oh, this is the last year, the 49ers have of, having a quarterback for cheap. Well, if they have a quarterback for cheap again next year, they're in a lot worse shape than they are if they're paying Brock Purdy $50 million.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, yes. Totally. Yeah. No, it puts them in a good position.
We've kind of been, I don't know, we've kind of been talking about that too. It's like, okay, maybe they're not the favorites to be the representatives of the NFC and Super Bowls after this year, but they still got their core, and they're
perennial
playoff contenders.
I mean, that's fair, right? I mean, there are teams with really good young rosters,
right?
And so there's going to be, I mean, heck, last year was a kind of a weird season. I think the 49ers were very clearly, in my mind, the best team in the NFC.
Mm-hmm.
However, they got extraordinarily lucky, right? Maybe not lucky. Let's just say fortunate, which is, I guess, basically the same thing. They got very fortunate how those games played out to get past the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got really fortunate the way things turned out, how the ball had to bounce the right way, how they had to make every play, how they had to take advantage of some, I wouldn't say questionable coaching decisions, but decisions made by Dan Campbell that helped the 49ers get back in it.
Yes.
And then, okay, so let's just say it, they got lucky to win the 2 playoff games. And then they got unlucky to lose the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, if you watch those games play out, the 2 games they won, they should have lost. And the game that they lost, they should have won. So it just, once you get to the postseason, in this last postseason, more than any I can ever remember, it really was almost kind of a flip of the coin, and just it was bizarre with how it played out. So I guess my point is, I think that gap is going to narrow, but I don't think that the window is closed.
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying that they're going to win it all, because if there takes a lot of good fortune with injuries and other things, just the bounce of the ball, there takes a lot in the NFL. This isn't, the NBA or where it seems like you can predict, you can just kind of line up and go, I mean, how many times are there really, truly, upsets in a 7-game basketball series?
Yeah.
And so what does it become more difficult after this season? Yeah, probably.
Mm-hmm.
You could probably say it became more difficult after last season, or even the season before that. But does their window close? I don't think so.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Matt, you've been more than gracious with your time. But before we get out of here, I want to ask you about...
sing. Please don't sing.
I'm not going to sing. You brought up YouTube, and you have your new channel out there. But a YouTube show that you like that I know you and I have talked about, Hot Ones.
Oh, yes.
The show with Sean Evans.
Yeah.
Tell me about your fascination with the show, and have you tried any of the sauces?
I have. We had, inspired by Hot Ones a year ago. God, was it a bye week? No, I think 49ers played a Thursday game, and a buddy has these are the kind of people you got to hang out with. Buddy has a beach house in Montecito, and so like probably a half dozen of us knuckleheads went down there to watch. In fact, it was the day that Oregon played Colorado.
Oh yeah,
early season game. 49ers must have had a Thursday game leading into that, and so I was like, let's do wings, and so we did, and I brought the one. What was it? The final one, not the really bad one, which I've had.
The bomb,
The bomb. I've had the bomb, and there's no redeeming value in that. It is hot. It doesn't taste good. It tastes like you're eating some sort of combination of like metal dissolved in acid. That's basically what it tastes like.
Yeah, like straight gasoline, right?
Yeah, it's horrible, absolutely horrible. But the last one, I'm drawing a blank on what it was.
The last dab experienced.
There we go. Yes, thank you.
Oh, I was going to say I have a bottle right here next.
Oh, there it is.
It's the gross thing about this podcast, Matt. We got to have a last dab.
Yeah, and you know what? It to me, a last dab it tastes pretty good.
Yeah.
But it like fries your brain. And I remember it was so hot and we were all, you should have seen us. We all did the wings, and there was like this, I don't know, 2 or 3 seconds of everyone still kind of standing around. We all did it at the same time. So 6 of us in a circle. And then after the heat started to kick in, we all dispersed and dealt with it in our own way. One guy ran outside. A tall guy ran into a beam in the basement. One guy had cold water in the faucet and was like doing this. And I, for some reason, was tearing up and laughing hysterically while also hiccuping. That's how I dealt with it. So I do. The other part of that show that I really enjoy is his interviewing.
Yeah.
Sean Phillips, right? Is that
Sean Evans. Sean Evans.
I'm sorry. Sean Evans. So his interviewing is really good. And so I've tried to use some of his techniques. It's a funny story. Kyle Juszczyk is from Medina, Ohio. And so before I interviewed him, I looked up Medina, Ohio, what's where the main attractions there. And there's some year-round Christmas experience, the Noel Christmas experience of Medina. And then I found the best restaurant in Medina. So I said, Kyle, tell me a little bit about Medina, Ohio. Would you rather spend a Saturday evening at the Noel Christmas experience or at, Jack's restaurant? And Juszczyk looked at me and goes, what are you talking about? And I go, you're from Medina, Ohio, right? And he goes, yeah. And I go, the Noel Christmas experience. It's like the top attraction in Medina. And he goes, never heard of it. and thankfully, this was the first question out of the gate. And I was like, cut.
Yeah.
Let's start this over. And so it was, I was like, okay, well, next time, I don't know if I can do that anymore.
That's incredible.
It was a great idea. I mean,
exactly.
You go back to the whole town, you look up something like that. And, Sean tends to, watching those interviews, he brings out almost like the child in the celebrity, and kind of whenever he mentions stuff like that. So I get where you were going. That's unfortunate, man.
Yeah, I thought the execution was good, and then Juszczyk just gave me nothing. Postscript to this, my friend, colleague Jennifer Lee Chan.
Yeah,
he had a friend. God, where were we? After a game, was it last season? I think for some reason I think we were in Minnesota. She had a friend in Minnesota she met us for like dinner after the game, or maybe the night before the game. And I said, "So where are you from?" And she goes, "Medina, Ohio." And I go, "Medina, Ohio? Oh, do you know the Noel Christmas experience?" And she goes, "Of course I do." So I was like, "Dang it, use check. Come on, you got to get out more."
Yeah.
That's on him. That's not on
that's on Kyle. That's on Kyle. Well, Matt, have you tried the new one, the Last Dab Experienced with Ghost Pepper or
I have not.
or
I have
Pepper
not.
X?
The last one we did after we did that thing about a year ago.
Yeah.
We did husbands and wives. We did one with all, every one of them.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's the first time I went through each one of them in order, and I was kind of I was taken by how like 2 is hotter than 3 and 4, and then it bumps up. Like there's this kind of, and there were some, and I keep meaning to like go over to his place and steal some of them. There were some that were so freaking good, like really, really good. Others were just hot to be hot.
Yeah.
And then the bomb is far and away the worst thing I've ever experienced in my life.
Yeah, I have yet to try that one. I have like a variation of it that they have on hedonist.com, but you can't get the original one. I don't know where to find the original Da Bomb.
Huh, that's funny. Yeah, there was they must not have like the rights deal or something.
They probably don't, because it's a different one. It's like Da Bomb Revolution, so it's slightly not the same. But we had the
Beyond Insanity.
Yeah, Beyond Insanity. I bought the new one, the Pepper X one, brought it in for Tolbert and Copes. We all had a hot wings challenge. I ate some, Tom ate some, Adam ate some, Tim ate some. Adam by far had the worst reaction, where he just started sweating profusely. Tom was worried. Going into it, and then he ate it and he was like, "Oh, this isn't that bad."
Wow.
And then of course he like put like some Da Bomb on his, like doused it, and then was like, "This is easy." And he's like, "Okay, I immediately regret that." And he started coughing the rest of the show.
Yeah. Have you seen the Conan O'Brien?
Oh my God, it's by far the best episode.
That is crazy. Like, he was delirious. Oh my God,
he sold out for the bid. It's fantastic.
It is wild, like how just off the hook that he went during that. Like, he definitely he committed to the bit and he just went all in.
Hot ones might have peaked when Conan's just, well, for lack of a better term, rubbing hot sauce on his nipples.
That's what he did. Yeah,
that's exactly the thing. You nailed it, Stephen. All right, Matt. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I won't sing, but thank you so much for spending time with us today. You can catch Matt on NBC Sports Bay Area covering the 49ers. He's on YouTube now. And we'll hear you on we'll hear you on 49ers pregame, but let's do a little on-air producing, Matt. I'll see you. I'll talk to you Tuesday for 4:50.
I believe so. Yeah.
All right.
So I'll be on the pregame show. I think 2.5 hours before kickoff. Is it on KBR?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And then because there's all these, it's always
no A10 the bread tomorrow.
Okay.
Or Monday.
And then then we'll pick up the regular schedule. Usually I'm on the drive time evening show, Tolbert and Copes on Mondays, but because of the Monday night game, I'll be on Tuesday. So,
fantastic, Matt. Thank you so much, my friend.
Okay, thank you guys. Take care.
Thank you so much.
No problem. All righty. Awesome. I was kind of hurt by Matt there. He assumes that his song's the biggest hit, and I would tell him not the case. The John Dickett song's much bigger.
Well, he at least seems to enjoy it. I think JD was being nice the last time he joined the pod. I think JD hates it.
Oh, no, he does. Well, the funny thing is, I think I've told this story before. When I first introduced the song, he comes on and says, "Wow." And Haberman goes, "Did you ask Derek to make a song for you?" And he goes, "No, I specifically asked him not to make me a song." Because he heard the JD song, and one day on the phone, he goes, "Hey, Derek," and like jokingly, he goes like, "Hey, when are you going to make a song for me?" And I go, "I can easily do that, Matt." And he goes, No, please don't. And then I did.
To peel back the curtain, as Derek was singing that, like the way this whole interface works, this layout, we have our little mini screens at the bottom. That's how you know who's in the actual stream. And then we have the main screen here.
Yeah.
But in these little mini screens, Matt popped on, and we hadn't brought him on to the actual mainstream yet. and he was glowing when you were singing that song. So
damn right he was. Damn right he was.
So maybe the fact that JD doesn't like it makes it even better.
Oh, fantastic.
Makes that one better. Yeah.
All right, let's pick some of these games. Before we do that, just quick previews. Jets, Niners. Robert Saleh just spoke to the media, and he's saying it would be fair to assume that Hassan Reddick is not going to play in this game. But you know what? I don't think they need Hassan Reddick. I think their defense is good even without him. I saw one reporter, by the way. Did you see this? I think it was Rich Samini, who covers the Jets for ESPN, suggesting that Hassan Reddick doesn't play it down for the Jets, and it's a trade piece to get Devontae Adams.
It's not too far out of the realm of possibility.
I don't think that's crazy, but also I think Hassan Reddick's got to play for this team at some point, damn it. Anyway, my whole point with this game is on Monday night, it's a game in the trenches. Both offensive lines versus the opposing team's defensive line. Is the new look Jets offensive line going to hold up against the Niners pass rush? How's that Niners D-line going to look now with Leonard Floyd, who tore Aaron Rodgers' Achilles almost a year to the day? That's crazy. And then not to mention also Hassan Reddick. People forget Hassan Reddick was the guy that tore Brock Purdy's UCL.
Yeah.
So there's all that, former defensive lineman hurting the opposing quarterbacks. And yeah, how is Trent Williams going to look against this Jets pass rush, who, even with Hassan Reddick, is pretty good? So I think this game is really about the trenches.
I think so too, but then you could look at the skill position guys and wonder, like, what's Brandon Ayuk going to look like? I know he came back practicing, but a week's not enough. Like, a week's not enough to get back up to game speed. So what's Ayuk going to look like? What's Christian McCaffrey going to look like? We haven't really seen or heard much about him, except for that he was fresh practicing this week. I actually think you're, as far as wide receivers go, I think you're going to see a heavy dose of Jacob Cowing. I'm interested to see what he does. I think you're going to see a lot of him in the slot if they go, if they go 5 out or whatever, or 4 out wide. And I think Jacob Cowing is going to have an interesting role in this game. And, the 49ers love to use those bunch formations and, whenever they take Juszczyk out for a play, I think Cowing's going to get his chance there, and that's going to be interesting to watch. But you're right. The trenches is kind of really where it stands. And then there's always the Aaron Rodgers angle. I mean, the Aaron Rodgers 2005 thing. And I did, I listened to the guy who authored his biography, and Ian O'Connor, who's been kind of making the media rounds. And I listened to him on like a Jets podcast as I was like just searching for sound. And not only did he use the word humiliated when describing how Rodgers felt during that whole thing, during the 2005 draft, what we also don't realize is that YouTube launched that year, and the first YouTube video was posted like a few months later after that draft. And that's really when the birth of YouTube happened, and Aaron Rodgers was kind of at a big part of YouTube early because
him in the green room.
Everyone was looking at that stuff for ESPN because it kept on cutting to him. And I forgot, man. I forgot that. I wish we could have, we could have kept Matt on for 3 hours, honestly.
I know.
But like back in, he was talking about 2005, like Mike Nolan was the coach and Mike McCarthy was the one who axed the idea of bringing Rodgers in. And then McCarthy's the one who ended up winning a Super Bowl with him. That's nuts, dude.
Yeah, it is nuts. And I always think that was kind of an unspoken thing between the two, because there's rumors that Rodgers was not a fan of McCarthy, but they got along for the most part to win Super Bowls together. But Rodgers, I believe, is 6-4 against the Niners the regular season, 0-4 in the playoffs.
6-3, if I'm not
6-3. Okay,
yeah, but 0-4 in the play. 0-4 where it matters.
Yep. And then the Raiders and the Chargers tomorrow. It is Harbaugh's debut, and I think this game is all about the physicality of the Chargers. How are they going to look on the defensive side of the football? Can the Raiders, they weren't able to do this a year ago. Can they contain their pass rush? Can they contain Khalil Mack from not getting 6 sacks again? And I don't think Justin Herbert's going to light it up this year, stat-wise, when it comes to throwing the ball through the air. Just can the Raiders stop the run? I think this is going to be a very run-heavy team in the Chargers.
Interesting. I was actually looking more from a passing defense angle, because this secondary for the Raiders, it's what everyone's hanging their hat on, really. Like, Max Crosby's established. That Robert Spillane's a pretty serviceable linebacker. Divine Diablo apparently has gotten thinner, and maybe he can keep up in pass coverage more. But it's also been it feels like the success of the defense is not only banking on what Crosby does and Wilkins does, but they're kind of banking on Jack Jones carrying what he did from last season into this season. Jacorian Bennett, another guy, Nate Hobbs, that's secondary. This Chargers wide receiver core is not great. And, if this secondary is as good as everyone thinks that it can be, well, I think that they got to dominate the Chargers and not give Justin Herbert any room to throw at all to his receivers. So I think it's a pretty, I'm interested in watching how the secondary plays this wide receiver core that's not supposed to be very good.
All right, well, let's pick those games and the full slate.
Random, but the Frank Gore story that Maiocco was mentioning about the linebacker, blitz pickup in that drill. The linebackers were Ricky Brown and Kirk Morrison. I looked it up.
Yeah, dude. Do you remember? Yeah, you remember O'Neal talking about Kirk Morrison?
No.
Oh man, I remember we were in training camp one time, and you and I love Kirk, and I would love to get him on the show one day. Love Kirk Morrison. Great in media now. Filling in for the Rich Eisen show and does radio in LA. But I remember Lowe, when he came to Raiders training camp, he was like, man, I never thought I'd be a Raider, because when I was with the Chargers, I would just light these motherfuckers up all the time. Especially that one short little linebacker you guys had. What was his name? 5'2"? I was like, Kirk Morrison? I was like, yeah, I used to eat that motherfucker alive.
Lowe's not that tall. You don't have the right to call people short.
That's fair. That is fair. When's Lowe going to join us? There's so many times where we, like, seriously, like, you thought that Brandon Ayuk stuff was annoying? Like, oh, we're on the cusp of this trade happening? Lowe would literally text me and Steven, hey, I'm good to go today. And then I'm like, okay, cool. What time? Lowe, you there? And then
he's a busy man.
Is he?
You know, he's got the Believe in Chargers with Matt Money Smith.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yep.
He does half the episodes from his car.
That's the thing I was afraid too. If he was going to be like just in the car, I was like, "What's up, Steven, baby? What's up? What's up, D-Pop? I'm going through a tunnel right now. I may lose you."
He will, or he'll be sitting outside in his driveway, getting distracted by a bird. I'll never forget that. My favorite thing that I've ever experienced. In the pandemic, when all we needed was some laughs. Lowe's doing the show from home. He's doing it outside in his driveway, and a bird flew into his face, and then he knocked over the mic, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful time.
That's incredible. All right, let's pick those Niner and Raider games along with the full slate of Week 1 games.
He waved his hands.
All right, real quick. One more story. Our guy, A. Scott, Alexander Scott, was engineering for us at training camp. And Lowe was on the phone with his wife, and he was like, all right, baby, okay, I'll take care of it. Hey, I got to do a radio show. Hang on. Hey, my man. He gives the phone to A. Scott. Hey, my man, talk to my wife, okay? She's got shit going on in the house. There's snakes all over the place. Help her out. A. Scott just like starts busting out laughing. He goes, what are you laughing about, man? I got snakes all over this place. A. Scott was like, what do you want me to do? Oh, man.
I love that guy.
We love Lowe. All right. Now, officially, let's pick those games in the Week 1 slate. It's time for wins or wangs. Let me hear that music, Steve. We haven't heard it in a while.
I forgot about it.
All right, hang on while Steven gets the music.
Crap. What do we want? Hard Knocks, the crappy royalty.
Yep, you already got it. Let's do it. All right.
Terrible.
I'm up 4-3 because I picked the Eagles to win. So, from the Thursday and Friday night games, I'm leading by 1 point, Steven. So here we go. Let's go through the Week 1 slate of games. Let's start in Cincinnati, where the Patriots are coming to the Bengals. The Bengals are 7.5-point favorites. The over-under is 40.5. It sounds like T. Higgins is not going to play in this game. He was doubtful. And at the same time, Jamar Chase, he is going to play. But if he doesn't get this contract in time by tomorrow, he is going to be on a limited basis, he says. So can't believe that a competitive player is going to take himself out of a game with the game on the line, but we'll see how that goes. Steven, How do you see this one going?
I don't care who's receiving for the Cincinnati Bengals. They're playing the New England Patriots, for God's sakes. Lay the points with Cincinnati at home in Week 1.
Okay,
and I'll take the under.
Alrighty. I think that the Patriots on paper are probably the worst team in football, but that secondary is not bad. That's actually a pretty good secondary. Their defense might be pretty good. So I am taking the Bengals to win. However, I will take the Patriots to cover, and I'm going to go under. Go under on that 40.5. Let's go over to New Orleans now, where the Carolina Panthers take on the Saints. Saints are 4-point favorites, and the over/under is 41.5. Steve,
I can't really give you a reason as to why, but if this is any foreshadowing for what the Saints season is going to look like, I still think I'm going to take them to win at home, but I'm going to take the Panthers to cover that number, and I will take the over in this game.
Alrighty. Am I?
Yeah. I mean, I can still hear your voice, so it doesn't really matter.
Okay. I think that the Saints are. Can you still hear me or no?
I can hear you.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna go with the Saints. I think that they are actually gonna be sneaky good this year. We'll see if they're playoff good, but I can't trust the Panthers right now. So I'm gonna take the Saints to win. I'm gonna lay the points, and I'm gonna go over. I think the Saints offense is gonna look a little bit better this year with. I believe it's Clint Kubiak as the offensive coordinator for the Saints. All right. Sorry. I'm thrown off here because I guess you can't see me anymore, huh?
I see you. You're
just frozen?
You're just frozen. You look like you're about to sing.
Well, let's go through the other games then.
Well, do you want to just remove and then add you back to the thing?
No, let me go through the games real quick, and then if I need to remove myself, I'll come back in.
All
right. Let's go to the Meadowlands, or not the Meadowlands anymore, but MetLife. Minnesota Vikings are taking on the New York Giants, and the Minnesota Vikings are road favorites. They're 1.5-point favorites, and the over/under is 41.5.
I'm inclined to take the Vikings, but I kind of love a home dog. No, I'll lay the points with the Vikings and just give me the under in this game.
Yeah, I think the Minnesota Vikings are a better team, and I think Sam Darnold gets his vengeance going back to New York. So, yeah, I'm going to take the Vikings to win. I think Daniel Jones is going to struggle tomorrow. I'll lay the points with the Vikings, and I'll go over. I'll go over on that 41.5.
Nice.
All right. Everyone is waiting to see what Caleb Williams is going to look like in the regular season against the Tennessee Titans. The Chicago Bears are 3.5-point favorites. The over/under is 44.5. Jamal Adams, who's now with the Tennessee Titans, sounds like he's going to be out in this game. And I believe Keenan Allen and Montez Sweat are questionable for this game.
They are. Lay the points with the Bears. Give me the over.
That easy, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm also just trying to speed this process up for you so you can watch Michigan, Texas.
I know. And I'll have to leave the chat real quick because I'm frozen, apparently. It looks like I'm about to sing from what everybody says in the chat. Look, I think Caleb Williams is going to be good, but he's still a rookie, and I think he's going to have some growing pains. So with that reason, I'm taking the Titans to win tomorrow. I think they're going to win in the upset in Chicago, and I got the over. I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. How do you like that, huh?
I mean, I got the same thing. It's just I'm laying the points with the Bears.
All right, fair enough. All right, Arizona Cardinals going to the Buffalo Bills, the new-look Bills that totally remodeled their receiving core and some of their defense. The Bills are 6.5.
In a good way or a bad way?
What's up?
You're acting like remodeled as in they upgraded. I don't know if they did.
They had to cut some salary is what I'll say. But I think they still could be a good team.
Okay.
So they're my Super Bowl pick, so I hope they're a good team. Bills are 6.5-point favorites, and the over/under is 47.5.
I'm going to take the over. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I think that that spread's pretty big. So I will take the Cardinals to cover, Bills to win.
All righty. I'm taking the Bills to win. I'm laying the points. I'm going over. I think that we're reading way too much into the changes. As long as they got Josh Allen, I think this team is going to be good.
No, that's not. This is my thing. It doesn't have as much to do with Josh Allen as much as I think we're underrating the Cardinals' offense.
All right, fair enough. Then we got the Houston Texans against the Indianapolis Colts. Anthony Richardson is back as starting quarterback of the Colts. And the Texans made a lot of additions this offseason. They're one of many of Super Bowl, dark horses this year. This Texans, actually, I shouldn't say dark horse. They're not favorites, but a lot of people have them as a Super Bowl pick. Texans are 3-point favorites, and the over-under is 48.5.
This is a tough one, just because the Texans are on the road, but I think they come out swinging. So lay the points with the Texans, and I'll take the under in this.
I'm going over in this one. I think plenty of points are scored. I like the Texans to win. I think those Colts are going to be sneaky good this year. I got them covering on the 3-point spread.
I think I think that Anthony Richardson, you talk about growing pains with Caleb Williams, Anthony Richardson still has to play substantial amount of time. I think there's going to be more growing pains with him, and I just think this Texans defense is damn good.
And then we got the Jacksonville Jaguars going to Miami to play the Dolphins.
Yeah.
2 quarterbacks that got paid this offseason. The Dolphins are 3.5-point favorites, and the over/under is 48.5.
Quite frank, I don't know what to make of the Jaguars, man. I think in our little season previews we talked about them as like along with the Titans. They're just one of the most confusing teams to kind of predict what's going to happen. But I'm not feeling good about it. But I'll lay the points with the Dolphins and give me the over.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Dolphins. I'm laying the points, and I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. So give me the over in that one. All right. The other games, as I flip the page, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons are 4.5-point favorites. 3.5-point favorites. The over-under is 41.5. This was supposed to be matchups of, I guess, the 2 biggest name quarterbacks changing teams. It was supposed to be Russell Wilson versus Kirk Cousins. It still could be that case, but it's leaning in the direction that Justin Fields may start this game because Russell Wilson's dealing with a calf strain.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, we'll see if Russell Wilson ever starts for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But like I said, the Falcons are 3.5-point favorites, and the over-under is 41.5.
It's a real shame that tweet didn't work out where, it was historical in that it'd be the first time that 2 quarterbacks of 12-plus seasons playing each other week 1 as they debut for a new team. That's about
we'll see about that.
Such a niche little record. That's like the Shohei Ohtani, Tungsten O'Doyle situation. But give me the Falcons, lay the points, and I'll take the under just because it's the Steelers' defense.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, so give me the under. I like the Falcons to win, but I think it's going to be a close game. Give me the Pittsburgh Steelers to cover that 3.5.
Yeah, I mean, very well could happen if it's going to be that low-scoring. Damn.
And then we got the Washington Commanders going to Tampa Bay, where Jaden Daniels will make his debut against the NFC South defending champs. Bucks are 3.5-point favorites. Over/under is 42.5.
I'll lay the points with the Bucks, but give me the over. I think Jaden Daniels is going to surprise some people.
I have the exact same thing. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Then we got the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix making his regular season debut against the Seattle Seahawks, who will be sporting their old AFC West jerseys, the old blues, which I really like. The Seahawks are 6-point favorites, and the over/under is 41.5.
The Seahawks are going to pick up one of their 3 wins, according to you, this season. And I think that's going to happen in Seattle. It's a big number, man. I mean, you 6.5 was the spread for you?
6.
Or just 6?
Yeah.
It's a big number. No, I'll lay the points with the Seahawks. I don't know. I'm not confident about that, but I don't know.
All right. And you're going over, you said?
Yeah.
I'm going to do the exact same thing. I think it's going to be a little rough for Bo Nix to start, and I think the Seahawks, yes, they'll win this game, and one of the few wins they have this season for whatever reason I have.
I can't believe you have going 3-14, dude.
I may be totally off on that one. Maybe totally off.
I'm going to bring that up week after week.
Of course, by all means. This will be by Adam Rank, who picked the Niners to win 3 games in 2019.
Yeah. And you're both bald.
Yeah, that's true. That's both. Yeah. We actually worked on the same show together for a while. Oh. All right, then we got the Raiders going to the Chargers. Chargers are 3-point favorites. Over/under 39.5. The Chargers trying to get revenge from their 63-21 loss a year ago.
Give me the Raiders. Give me the over.
Ooh. Steven's feisty. Yeah, I can't go there yet. I think Harbaugh's going to have this team playing hard to start, and then the Raiders. Yeah, it might be rough. It might be rough to start things off, but I think defensively they'll be fine. It's going to be a low-scoring game. However, 39.5 is pretty low to me. I'm going over on that one. Yeah, give me the Chargers to win, but the Raiders cover.
I think I've definitely I think I've definitely underrated how much of a difference that Jim Harbaugh is going to make. So I'll say that with my pick. I'll mention that. I'm not saying that this coaching move was a wrong one, but I think I've underrated it a little bit.
Alrighty, and then we got Tom Brady's debut on the mic as the Cowboys take on the Cleveland Browns. Browns are 2.5-point favorites, and the over/under is 40.5.
This was also a tough one to pick because I'm also in a pick'em league, and I was kind of stuck on this one. You know what? Lay the points with the Browns. I think they're gonna. I think the Cowboys are going to be a significantly worse team this year. Lay the points with the Browns and give me. I'll take the over just because of the Cowboys.
I'm going with the Cowboys. I think the people are reading too much into them not picking up people and whatnot. I think they're going to be a good team this year. I got them winning the game, and I got the over.
Who's running the ball?
It's going to be Jerome Ford, I believe.
Oh. No, I'm not.
For the Cowboys?
Yeah.
Rico Dowdle, my friend.
All right.
And as a variation of Zeke and Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
I feel pretty good.
All right. Okay. They can still throw the football, I believe. And then we got the Sunday night game, as the Rams take on the Detroit Lions, a rematch of last year's wild card matchup. Matthew Stafford goes back to Detroit. Jared Goff plays his old team in the Rams. The Rams are 4.5-point favorites, and the over/under is 52.5.
Just to let you know, Ernie's, he knows he's frozen.
I know.
We're just trying to get through it.
I'm like a ventriloquist right now.
I think that over/under is huge. Just I'm too scared to take the over on that. So give me the under, but I'll lay the points with the Lions.
I'm going to lay the points as well, but I like the points to be scored aplenty. I am going with the Lions to win the game. I got the Rams to cover, but give me that over. Give me that over. All right, and lastly on Monday night, we got the New York Jets at the San Francisco 49ers. Niners are 4.5-point favorites. Over/under 43.5.
I just think with everything the Niners have gone through, I think they're going to ultimately win this game, but I'm going to have the Jets cover. I think it's going to be a fun one to close out the week, and I'll have it go over.
I think it's going to be a very low-scoring game. Very low-scoring game. I think that the Jets' defense gives Purdy some fits, but in the end, I think that Rodgers, in his first game fully with the New York Jets, hopefully, he plays well, but not enough to get the win. I got the Niners winning this game. I'll lay the points, but I'll go under. I'll go under in this game.
All right.
And there you go. Those are our picks for Week 1 of the NFL schedule. Am I still frozen?
Yes.
How do I look?
You are frozen in time. You look okay.
Okay.
You look
probably.
You're just holding them. You look like you're about ready to give us a tasty jam.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe I just stay that way then.
Yeah.
Do you want to do a quick pop culture catch up? Do you want to get out of here?
It's up to you, man. I mean, I don't got a college football game to watch.
Oh, I got it on record. No one give me the details. I know Tacky would be the asshole here to be like, oh, this is the score right now.
Okay.
Real quick.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think both of us watched Adam Sandler's new special.
Yes.
I Love You, or Love You, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
I thought it was very interesting in the way that it was presented.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that all that shit was done purposefully.
Yeah.
Like the beginning of it, it's chaotic. You see that M. Sandler's going into the venue to do stand-up, and weird shit's happening. Like some crazy uncle is asking an autograph for his nephew. There's a dog running through the stage. The shit doesn't work. And I believe that's done because is it Benny Safdie or one of the Safdie brothers who directed Uncut Gems directed this comedy special? So I guess he just wanted to have chaos in the beginning of it.
Yep.
So that was done purposely.
Yes, and it was meant to. It was absolutely meant to convey that, even though he's like one of the most famous actors to ever grace the silver screen, he can still be doing stand-up comedy specials in some dumpy club where all this shit goes wrong. So I think there was something to it. Yeah, I was very creative.
No, I thought it was very creative. I saw a lot of those bits, like the funny, like I did laugh at most of that stuff. Like I heard the balloon joke. That was a lot of his material. I heard when he came to Chase Center. I went to go with my dad, and I don't think Adam Sandler's more of not really like a stand-up guy. I think he's just he's a well-known actor who just kind of just says whatever is at the top of his mind. I did like some of the songs, like the one where he's got like the bass line riff where it's like fat cop on a little horse. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And the spooky song where he says like ridiculous things. I'm trying to think of an example, but it just made me laugh every time when the camera would zoom in on his face and he would go, "We knew."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. The song, you and I both texted about the song. The song in the end about comedy. In the same vein of his tribute to Chris Farley a couple years ago, I thought that maybe he would do a song about Norm, but Norm's a part of this song in a way, but he just does a whole song about how comedy is so special to all of us when we're down, when obviously like comedy is kind of being attacked these days of what you can say, what you can't say. And I think the gist of the song is the comedy's just supposed to make people laugh. And that's what we all need in our lives.
Yeah, well, because now it feels like comedy is used as a way to
preach,
call out the establishment, or I don't know, like Dave Chappelle apparently using his stand-up specials in part to just call out the transgender community and make jokes about it. And I don't really know what his goal is there. Whereas Adam Sandler, like the thing that struck me is like, he just likes stupid shit. And sometimes it doesn't need to be symbolic of the society that we live in today. It doesn't need to have some underlying message. Sometimes comedy, you could just laugh at stupid shit. And that's what Adam Sandler was all about. Actually, your coworker, I guess my friend, Mike O'Connell, I guess. I remember something he told me back in college, and we kind of had a discussion about it. Cause this was when Adam Sandler's was right in the middle of like the grown-up shit. And, and we're like, like Adam Sandler had such an impact on our childhood, especially for people our age, like in our 30s. Like anything he does, he could do whatever he wants. Like I'm never going to stop thinking Adam Sandler's funny. Like I'm just, I'm fully grateful for everything that he's done. And watching his special, like, was there a few laugh out loud things? Yeah. Is it going to be for everybody? No. Did I have a smile on my face the entire time I was watching it? Absolutely. Absolutely. And that song about comedy, man, it's just, that's what it was about for him. And for a lot of people growing up, it's just, obviously he's been through a lot of hardship in his life. So, it was very sentimental, and I thought it was also very telling that he couldn't really name anybody or anything from post Bridesmaids because there really hasn't been anything that funny.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I did listen to, he was on the podcast with Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce, New Heights. I listened to that interview, and he was like, "Oh, I like a lot of comedy out there today. I like a lot of guys." I don't know why I make him sound like that, but
because he does. He sounded like that on that interview. I listened to it too.
Well, it's funny. Like I think of Adam Sandler as like my age now, like young in his 30s, and when I hear him on with Jason and Travis, and he's like, "I saw you and Taylor. You're very good together, you two."
Yeah,
he just sounds like an old man. But I dug the comedy special. I think 100% Fresh is a little better, but yeah, it's classic Sandler.
Yeah. Yeah, and just he's a very talented guitar player. Never get tired of that,
dude. I mean, all the songs he did for some of the movies, like Wedding Singer, I want to grow old with you, and Someone Put a Bullet in My Head. Those are well-made songs.
Yeah,
and even all the songs he made for the comedy albums were fantastic. So yeah, Adam Sandler's the man. And by the way, I hear what you're saying about Dave Chappelle and him trying to be outspoken about things. Did you see that Will Ferrell is doing a new documentary that's very interesting?
Yeah, I saw the one on. It's about that former writer who transitioned into becoming a woman, right?
Yes, Andrew Steele, who I guess is now Harper Steele. She was originally a writer on SNL, and she made one of my favorite movies of all time. Or not really movies, but I guess miniseries. You ever seen The Spoils of Babylon, Stephen?
No.
Spoils of Babylon is a anthology miniseries spoof with Will Ferrell, who plays like this kind of Orson Welles type director who's like, I created this film back in the early 1920s, and every day I was drunk. Kristen Wiig is in it. Tim Robbins is in it. Tobey Maguire is the lead, and he's fucking hilarious. I highly recommend this movie. It's one of my favorites, or miniseries, whatever you want to call it. And I guess Andrew Steele was the creator of it. And yeah, he transitioned to becoming Harmony Steele now. And they go on a road, or Harper Steele, I should say. And they go on a road trip across America to see if he will be accepted. So, and I think that's something that needs to be done too. Like, I know a lot of older comedians are kind of looked at as anti-trans, and I like that Will Ferrell is doing this to support his friend. So I look forward to this documentary.
Yeah, no, it should be an interesting one. I don't know why, man, but like if we're doing pop culture catch up, I've been entrenched in like old school Western movies.
Oh,
I just watched Tombstone, which
Tombstone's good,
which is all right. I mean, Val Kilmer was the star.
Daisy, if you do.
It was just like it was a little corny though. Kurt Russell just going no, and like just shooting a couple of guns off.
I find Wyatt Earp to be the better movie.
I'm interested in that one. And what am I watching right now? A Fistful of Dollars. I'm watching that trilogy. I've been meaning to watch that Clint Eastwood trilogy. It's like Fistful of Dollars. I forgot what the second one is, and it closes out with Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Got it. Okay. Well, there's all those. Are you going to watch Horizon, the American saga of the new movie?
No, I am not. I am not going to watch that. There's plenty, because I've realized I haven't watched many like Western films, so I'm kind of going back and watching those whenever I get a chance to. And I've been having trouble making it the entire way through A Fistful of Dollars. I can barely find time to sit down and watch it all at once. I don't know. I do want to watch the second half of Michigan, Texas, so maybe I'll watch it after that.
Are we already in the Michigan? Are we already in the second half?
I mean, we might be. It started at 9:00.
Okay, don't tell me what happened. I'm going to start it from the beginning on my YouTube TV. I'm watching Michigan, Texas right now. So yeah, thanks to everybody in the chat.
Oh, never mind. It's not even near halftime yet.
Still fantastic. Left in I probably could catch up then. Yeah. All right, everybody. We'll be back on Tuesday night to recap everything that went down in week 1. What are you laughing about?
Just Ernie too, saying Steven has the perfect size head for a snapback. Thank you. I've always thought that.
All right. On that note, everybody, thanks to everybody that was in the chat today, and special thanks to our guest Matt Maiocco, who loves hot cocoa. Really thankful that he was able to jump on with us today. He's fantastic at covering the 49ers, and he's a very I hope we got across that he's a very laid back guy.
Yeah, so he's super nice, dude. We'll post that full interview on YouTube, and
nice.
We'll definitely cut some things up from that.
There you go. Especially me singing. All right, everybody. Enjoy the games. I know I will. Thank God football is back. We'll see you guys on Tuesday. Everybody from Ernie 1 to Ernie 2. Skills here briefly. AJ Cruz. And I think that's it. No tacky today. Eat shit. And no Derek Papa parody account. All right. On that note, everybody, see you Tuesday. Steven, say what you always say.
It is just our opinion, man.